Welcome to session 4 of the last 5 years. Let's start with a recap of session 3. So in session 3, I talked about how Bharosa Club became a registered investment advisor, which was a great decision and fitted well with our objectives. And then also I talked about some of the early decisions that we made, which weren't very good, which set Bharosa back. So let's move on. And we will talk about a theme that we tried to explore, which was called GGMF, which stands for Ghar Ghar Mein Phul. So we wanted to increase mutual fund penetration. It was very clear that it was a good product, which had very low penetration. So we wanted every household to have a mutual fund folio. And even if this folio was not active, at least the task of having a folio and creating penetration would have been done. So this was the whole idea behind GGMF. So we also knew that the mutual fund companies had to have 2 basis points of their AUM to be put in a fund which would be used for investor education. So that was a fairly large amount. So we were trying to see how we could leverage that. And we said that we would do this test of GGMF in a small geographical area, which also was one of the wards that Anita had worked in to try and transform, which was this ward number 103. So we worked on this. So that was another interesting part. The thing which set us back was the tough process for onboarding. So it wasn't very easy, even if we convinced a person to get a mutual fund folio. They had to do KYC, they had to get a CAN, they had to get a PAYEASY, and all these processes were kind of very difficult. And then there wasn't a very solid economic model, and we weren't able to convince regulators to make the processes simple. Now, this last part about convincing regulators is again, in our opinion, one of the tragedies of India and how regulators really do not understand their role. So a lot of poor people in India are duped by trying to buy a whole life insurance, which is definitely not the best thing for them, and also worse still, getting into chit funds and things like that. However, the regulators keep making it very difficult for them, and therefore we were not, but we were unable to convince regulators. So we wrote to them, tried to get in touch with them. So at some point in time, maybe the regulators will understand and realize that they are doing the country and the poor people in India a great disservice by having less than optimal regulation. So one of the key things for success in a disruptive innovation exercise is the quality of the team. So we hired many people, we burned a lot of money. Some of our team members were not good, but there were 2 or 3 people like Arvind Kaushal who built the technology, Shantanu Kumar who was very instrumental in trying to get our marketing right, and Rahul Goyal, who helped us with some algorithms and things like that. So we did have some people that we recruited who were good, but on the whole, the team was not great, which was another reason why Bharosa had a few problems. So I think the learnings are that, to keep things small, add very slowly to the team, try and get like excellent people. One should also make assumptions about the fact that you will be able to convince regulators or consumers, even though you are very sure that what you are doing is correct. So the other thing was that for us, it was fairly easy to put in our own money and take some chances with the burn rate, right? Because we hired people, we wasted money, both in hindsight. But what we did was that some of the promoters put in more money as convertible debentures before we would raise a round. And then we did raise a round from friends and family where the debentures converted. So we had a fairly good story, very strong belief. We were able to sell it, and we did raise about close to $1 million from friends, family, and our own money. We also developed a pretty solid HNI product, which was very useful, and we were able to sell it to a lot of people when the promoters were involved in selling it or things like that, because we had a lot of HNI friends, they trusted us and all that. But when our teams tried to sell it, they were not very good because they didn't have the same passion, the same belief, and we weren't able to get a lot of traction. So we did end up having around 9,000 customers. We had about 350 crores in AUM. But still, it wasn't something where we would get a lot of traction. And we always have this conflict that, look, we are not here to serve HNIs. We are here because we want to serve the masses. So we also grew our team quite a lot before actually getting a fundraise. So we wanted to raise about 15 crores from an institutional investor. And we felt that once we had an institutional investor there, then we could set up an office in Mumbai and, using the investor, we could probably convince regulators, convince mutual fund companies, etc. much better. But we also built a fairly expensive team in Delhi. And partly this was opportunistic because we found a person who had got traction, in using chartered accountants all over the country. So we put all this team together, but we found that we, for a variety of reasons, were just not able to get the traction. And therefore, the fundraise also was proving to become difficult. So we'll talk more about the story of the fundraise in the next session. So the story will continue in the next session. Thank you for listening.